So straight off the bat, Karl, what are we getting right and what are we getting wrong in Christian media?
In Christian media?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's an interesting question because Christian media is so broad.
Yeah, okay.
So what exactly is Christian media? I think one of the things that we get wrong is that we talk too much.
I'll play a song then. Yeah, no good.
Which is a bad play, and we think we have to explain everything all the time. And we worked with a director who was very, very good. And when we were producing series, he helped frame up what we did in our series. And he's basically saying, he wrote for Hollywood and all this sort of stuff. And Simon used to say to us, let the viewer do some work. Don't tell them everything. And we would, if you watch our series, we've done a bunch of series like Jesus the Game Changer and our new series Encounter. It doesn't come on with me at the end explaining the point, Like that's the classic Christian thing. One of the guests makes a great point and we wrap it up.
Nice.
And I think there's something in that. Like assume knowledge, assume that they're thinking, don't give all the answers all of the time. And help, build curiosity. I think, and then the other thing too with, over the years, Christian media has been a bit ordinary on its production values, which is clearly not the case with you guys. But there are places.
Mate, we have high standards over here on the Morning Wake Up. Only the most professional.
Absolutely, but a long time ago, a Christian writer wrote about leadership in the church, and he said the trouble is we now live in a time where excellence is only noticed by its absence. We expect excellence. We expect things to be well done, whereas the church has always been a bit forgiving of itself. And sometimes that meant that our production values were less than they should have been.
I know what you mean. But a lot of quality stuff coming out these days, though, that
totally.
you see around the place. And you're involved with a lot of different things. You wear a few different hats, you could say. So at the moment, you're touring through New Zealand with Thinking Matters. Dr. Michael Bird, who we had on the show yesterday. Yeah. Nice to meet him and hear about what he's going to be talking about. What's kind of your area that you'll be sort of sharing on for anyone that's coming along or wants to know? What gets you fired up, Karl?
Well, at the moment, what's getting me fired up is our new series Encounter, but it's what's wrapped around Encounter. We've done a number of series, and then my wife Jane, who's the creative director of Olive Tree Media, and I were asking what's the next series should be about. And one of the things is you kind of assume what's happening around the Western world and nations. And we actually did this little tour where we were asking people what's happening now. And that was one of the first times where we had a conversation with Justin Briley in London before his book, The Surprising Rebirth and Belief in God, had been released. And he was telling us about some of the concepts around that book. And that's what's informed us in what we've now produced. So the thing that's really got me intrigued, and I think that we need to talk about and respond to, is that there is a surprising rebirth and belief in God. That we're not back in 2010 with the new atheists and the debates around abuse in churches of children in churches, which is appalling, and even the same-sex marriage debates and all of that, where the church seemed to be pushed to the margins. The church was, out of touch, out of vogue. Was the last place you went was a Christian church, and it felt like we were up against it all of the time. Now we're in a different space now. I think Justin Briley's right. There is a surprising rebirth and a belief in God. And you actually have a group, the Bible Society in the UK just did a big piece of research and actually has put out this research, as many people listening would have heard of, and it's called The Quiet Revival. Now, if you're interested, you just go on YouTube.
Google it, yeah.
Google it, Quiet Revival. You can actually download the whole report. And what it's saying is people are coming back to church, especially 17 to 25-year-olds.
Gen Z.
Yeah. And boys, men.
Wow. Okay, cool.
That's the big shift. So we've just finished Encounter. Right now, we're producing a series for men. Let me give you one story. His name's Jack, and I'm going to tell this story a bit. If you come to one of the Thinking Matters events, you'll hear this story because it kind of gives a picture of what's happening today. Jack went through a Catholic school. His parents were teachers in Catholic schools, but didn't really go to a Catholic church. Once he left school, it's like, that was it. I'm done. Not done with religion, done with faith, just got on with life, And he's living out his life, became a school teacher himself. And then he's sort of doing some reading and looking around what's going on. So he read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. And when he's reading Jordan Peterson's book, he's like, wow, this guy's quite interested in spiritual things. Like, he actually talks about faith and spirituality. Maybe I should look into that. So he started watching a whole bunch of YouTube clips. after watching a bunch of YouTube clips for a period of time, he thought, I need to go to church. Started going to church.
No.
Interesting. I've noticed it too on like some of the largest podcasts you'll find in the world. They're having Christian guests, Christian even apologist kind of speakers and things that you're like, wow, I wouldn't have predicted that to be the topic of conversation, but you see that often it is.
Yeah, totally. It's the whole Joe Rogan with Wes Huff thing, which is massive. Like, it's huge. And the point about that conversation is it is a positively disposed conversation. It's not a setup to dismiss this guy. And that's an interesting change.
What does dispose mean? You know,
in the sense when he comes on, it's almost Joe Rogan is agreeing with Wes Huff.
Yep.
Like it's not, he hasn't brought him on so
it's not a takedown or a setup.
Deconstruct him or entrap him or anything. It's not like that at all. It's almost like Joe Rogan's like, I'm on your team.
Yeah, interested in
Which is now that's Justin Briley's point, that there's a shift in the main thinkers, not all of them, but a large group of thinkers, writers, and academics.
the word that is in my mind at the moment is curiosity. And it's kind of hopeful and encouraging that you said there's a lot of curiosity amongst Gen Z.
Yeah.
And men.
Yes.
What's the deal?
I think that's a really interesting question, and I'm not. I mean, everybody has ideas. I don't think anybody's absolutely sure about it. I think the whole COVID thing changed something. There was something sort of clicked in COVID that was unsure. That people are unsure about the future. I think that, even stuff like simple things like the cost of housing, which means that you got young men are looking at their future going, really? Like, what is the future? And the young men is very complicated because I think that you also had the Me Too movement, and then the word toxicity and masculinity got joined. And so you basically men are told you're toxically male. To be male is to be toxic. So you have these young guys, like I mentioned Jack before. Jack's asking him, and this is part of the interview, was asking himself the question, well, what is it to be a male? Now, I may not happen to want to be a guy with a man bun who drinks soy lattes. Now, for due respects to people.
Nothing wrong with a soy latte.
No, or man buns. But my point is that's not necessarily the image that every young man wants to be. And I don't want to be toxic, but what is it to be a bloke? You guys are smart enough to know that that the whole dating app thing is not working for men. It's something like 20% of
We're lucky we got married a long time before those existed. I'm very thankful.
You would have heard on the grapevine that 20% of the women are going for 80, like 20,
it's a very small portion of men that are having any success.
And so the dating app doesn't work for them. And then you get this whole incel thing, involuntary celibates. And then that builds a bit of anger. And then the worst case scenario is that they go off to the manosphere, Andrew Tate and co., which is appalling, and don't go there. But the question, all I'm saying is that it causes a sense of a loss of sense of what am I about? What's the future? What should I do? And therefore, they're looking for new options. And what they're looking for is clear voices. And one of the clear voices out there, love him or hate him, is someone like a Jordan Peterson, who's actually saying, okay, guys, men, here's a way to get your life together. Now, in that process, Peterson actually positively talks about faith and having religion, which means that then guys like the Jack I talked to before the break are looking to say, I should explore that. So if you go 10 years ago, faith is a toxic part of the community and we shouldn't have anything to do with it, and real men don't do that. To now, it's a bit like, that's a good option, I should consider it. And guys are turning up to church, not ever thinking, what's this all about? They know what it's about, and that's why they're there.
Interesting that you describe it as a shift, because it does kind of seem like what it is. The conversation has kind of moved. There's still what do you say? I know you speak to this. People that would say, Christianity or religion in general maybe has nothing but negative outcomes for the world. It's caused this. It's caused so much harm and pain and, toxic masculinity, all kinds of abuse, all sorts of things that a lot of people associate with the church, and that's Christianity's fault. We'd be better off without it. What do you say to that?
Well, that's my view is that's an old argument. That was a decade ago. Yeah, like 15 years ago, or just slightly more than that, Christopher Hitchens released a book called God Is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything.
That basically sums up what I was saying, yeah. But I think that thought still does exist with a lot of people.
Well, it does in certain circles where if you take, the church is a fallen organisation run by fallen people. So there are always going to be negative outcomes in different places and times. And that means that, you can look for it. If you're looking for it, you'll find it.
Yeah.
You'll find those stories. But the overall picture is the Tom Holland story, not the Spider-Man actor.
Yeah, that's where my mind
straight
went.
there. I went straight there.
I was like, what's Tom Holland done?
So for those of you who know the broader,
Okay.
so there's a guy called Tom Holland who's written a book called Dominion. Now, Tom Holland loved the Greco-Roman world, loved the Spartans, loved all of that. Not a person of faith. That's not. He had some in his background, but that wasn't what motivated him. He's looking at it, and he suddenly wakes up one day and goes, their values are morally abhorrent. Like they did stuff that we would never do today, not because, in modern Western societies. And he's basically asking himself what happened. Like why does the West hold these values today and the Greco-Roman world was so different? And his answer was Jesus of Nazareth.
Amen.
You've spoken about a whole lot of other people, not yourself. You run your own media company, Olive Tree Media,
Yep.
right? You're a communicator. You're a CEO. I just mentioned it. What lesson has God taught you about through your media work?
The lesson he's taught me, I think a few things. I've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of them are really smart, and I'm not that bright. So it's one that you
And we're a couple of steps below you, Karl. So
A couple. Try 7.
It's a funny thing because you walk away from talking to people, even like Michael Bird you talked to yesterday. He's a seriously bright boy, and you go, and part of it is, I'm not that bright, but I got to roll, and that's the key. And it's comparing yourself to other people is always going to give you a bad outcome. But seeing where God has gifted you and where you can make a difference, and it's a bit like working out what you do. Like I actually did a radio spot, a Daily Nudge, which will come to your show in the next 6 months, and it was about the whole "you do you" thing.
Yeah.
That little phrase, "you do you." And that's positive and negative, because what if you is toxic and negative? Like, you
might not want to do that.
That's right, because we're fallen and broken, and that's the worst part of you do you. But the best part of you do you is all of us unique. So find out what you're good at, and do that. And I think that's the bit that media's taught me. There are places I'm not good at, and I should know that. And that's not to beat yourself up. It's just being realistic.
Yep.
But there are places that I bring a unique quality, and it's finding those places and making the most of them.
Well, hopefully you're in your lane tonight in Dunedin. For people that are interested in wanting to head along to this Encounter Thinking Matters tour that's going around, so you're there and Dr. Michael Bird as well, what could they expect if they're heading along? What are you going to be bringing?
Brilliance.
One
We
word,
don't even
that's
have to
all you
say
need.
that. We can tell. We know.
Essentially,
Aside from that,
we're looking at some of the things we've talked about this morning, which is the whole what is the change in Western democratic nations? We're not where we were in 2010. So what is the vibe at the moment, and how can we look at that, and how can we be encouraged? And we're introducing our new series Encounter, people Jesus met then and now, and we're helping people to see how Encounter is a response to what's happening today.
well, you do you tonight, okay, Karl? And if there are a lot of youngins, if there are some Gen Z peeps in the building tonight, I think lit, you can't use the word lit anymore.
That one's already
it's
expired,
gone.
I think. Hey, Karl, it's been great to hear your voice in person and have you in, and we wish you all the best for the tour. Hope it goes off.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
thinkingmatters.org.nz if you want details and want to get your tickets.